Besom Ben and His Donkey by Edwin Waugh. Chapter 5. But is this true, or is it else your pleasure, like pleasant travellers to break a jest upon the company you overtake, taming of the shrew? When we last left Enoch, he had closed the doors of the mill chamber, and he had crept downstairs and out at the back, locking the door quietly behind. Twitchell and Rip Rap were hurrying Dimple across the fields. They durst not take the high road for fear of their footsteps being heard. Enoch followed them as fast as he could go, and soon as he crossed the first field, he stopped and looked back from behind the hedge. All was dusky and still, and there was nobody in sight. No doubt poor Ben was innocently pacing about the other side of the building still, waiting for Enoch to show himself at the top doors again, as he had promised. Enoch chuckled at the thought, and ran off after the jackass and its drivers. He was nearly out of breath when he overtook them, but he blurted out in earnest tones, "Forrard, lads, forrard, we're no one out to sea yet." They were getting near a hillock which would hide them from the view from the direction of the mill. Once behind that, they would be safe. "Come up, ye slow-motion leather-yed," said Enoch, flinging his cap at the jackass. "Come up, nip round that newt, lads, and we's be as right as a ribbon. This is a Malc." It was easy to say, "Come up," but Dimple was bad to drive. The poor brute was quite bewildered. He neither liked the road, nor those who drove him along it, and every foot he went was against the grain. But by dint of pulling and hauling, and sundry ingenious modes of torment in the rearward, they managed to get the frightened animal slowly along. As soon as they got over the hillock, Enoch peeped back again. "All right," said he, "tak that field road, and o'er Tummyglem's meadow, he'll ne'er see us, and then through th' farmyard, and down th' cow lane. Go quietly through th' yard, or else they'n hear us. Off wi' you now. Here, I'll make that jackass stir better nor this," and he picked up a thorn branch from the ditch, and tickled the donkeys behind with it. Dimple had not been used to such treatment as that, and at the first touch of the thorns, he darted his heels out. "Hullo," said Enoch, starting aside. "Look out, it's kicking again." "Bite, mon," said Twitchell, running up to the bridle. "Those heels weren't to boon the thickness of a shilling off my shins. They look after that end, Enoch. I'll tent this front quarter. Come up, Balaam. Tickle it again, Enoch." And away they went, tugging and tormenting the poor jackass along the field path, till they came in sight of a turnstile which led into the next field. "Howd," cried Enoch, "I'd forgotten that steel hole. How mun we manage this?" "Let's heave it o'er," said Rip. "Nay," replied Twitchell, "none o' me. I'm after having naught to do with that job. You two heave it, and I'll go to t'other side and tice it with a bit of bread." "Well then," said Rip, "let's drive it up waiterside." "Nay," answered Enoch, "that'll do none. We's bid round to some lumber, beside it's a mile of a round. But howd," continued he, running down the hedge side, "I'll shap it. Come here, let's wind this hole a bit." And he pulled down a bush of thorns which had been put into a gap in the hedge made by the cattle. "Now then," cried Enoch, "oh wait, be sharp, bite mon, lads, this lick's cock-feeding. Oh wait." "Cock-feeding," replied Twitchell, pulling at the bridle. "It's as good as a steeple-chase, begod. Tickle it behind again, Enoch." "Here, I'll make this shift," said Enoch, taking aim at Dimple with a rotten gate bar, which had helped to fill the gap. But Twitchell cried out, "Howd, no paling. They may tickle it, if thou likes, but no paling while I'm here." At last, with a great deal more tickling and tugging, they got Dimple through the gap. "There," said Twitchell, as they stood on the other side, taking breath. There, that job's done. Which gate now? Tack through Termit Field, replied Enoch. It'll not do to stop here. Whose is it? inquired Rip. It belongs to Tommy Glenn, answered Enoch. Said Rip. He'll have us up. He's a reverend chap, is Tommy. He'll have us afore old Clement, as sure as pie. Never thee mind him, cried Enoch. Tommy's as drunk as a wheel yed be now. He's off at a churn's supper at Prickshaw. Forrard, I tell ya. Forrard then, replied Twitchell. I'll be as hard as thee. And away they went, kneading through the soft soil towards the gate, which led into Tommy's farmyard. As they drew near to the gate, Enoch whispered to the other two, Now then, you mun be as whist as mice. Be ginger with that yate, Twitch. Out Sal's in kitchen yon, I say. Dunna cheap till we're getting it through yard. Who's a thin heart un is Sal. Twitchell managed the gate as noiselessly as if it had been made of moonshine. But the moment he had set it back, he tripped forward through the yard, staring at the kitchen door as he went by. When he got off at the corner of the house, he stopped and peeped back to see how the others came on. "See thou, Rip," whispered Enoch, pointing to Twitchell as he ran off. "See thou at yon, termit yed, he'll have us ta'en." Enoch and Rip had scarcely got halfway across the yard with Dimple when the door of the house was opened, and out rushed a great dog followed by the farmer's wife. The light from the inside fell full upon Enoch and Rip driving the jackass. Enoch was nearest the door, and the dog flew straight at him, seizing him by the leg. Enoch screamed out, "Take it off, oh, take it off!" and he fell back into a trough full of swillings, splitting the trough in his fall. The instant Twitchell saw the door open, he took to his heels full pelt down the cow lane, and at the same moment Rip-Rap disappeared in a mysterious way. As soon as Enoch fell into the trough, the dog let go his leg and rushed at Dimple, and away went the poor jackass, kicking and prancing down the lane with the dog at his heels. Old Sally was alone, but she was a dauntless dame, and as soon as she saw that the dog had disposed of the others, she ran up to Enoch, who sat amongst the swillings, rubbing his leg. "Now then," cried Sally, "what done you want here?" "I want to be off out of this coat as soon as I can," replied Enoch, gathering himself up from among the swillings. "That dog of yours has taken a lump out of the calf of my leg." "The dog would have touched no one of thee, if tha'd been upon thy own clod," said Sally. "Who art her?" "Who am I? I'm Enoch of Swivers. That dog's played—" "Oh, is it thee, Enoch?" "Aye, it's me." "Well, and what are you after?" "We han found a jackass down in Clough." "Well, and what are you doing with it here?" "I'll tell you some time else," said Enoch, taking to his heels over a hedge close by. "Young dog's coming back, I hear." "Well, but who's to make this trough good?" shouted Sally. "Who's to make my leg good?" replied Enoch from behind the hedge, and then he struck across the fields. Enoch durst not take the cow lane for fear of meeting the dog, so he went helter-skelter over hedge and ditch in the dark, and in about 10 minutes he came out upon the high road at the top end of the village of Shaw Clough. The first person he met was a mower, going home with his scythe upon his shoulder, and singing, "They am getting bit leg, and give him a twell, and say, Boney, O crater, take care of thyself. If thou doesn't bite maskins, he'll potter thy wint, and he'll dig up thine een, and send thou home blight." "Now then," said Enoch, "is that thee, Jem?" "No, it isn't me, Jem." "Who art thou?" "I'm Enoch of Swivers." "Well, and what does Enoch of Swivers want with me, reckons he?" "Hast to let two chaps with jackass?" "I can lead to naught else but jackasses to neat as somehow. What mak' o' chaps are they?" "'Twan on 'em's a wart at th' end of his nose," replied Enoch. "How could I see a wart at th' end of his nose in dark? That tup! There's 2 churn yeds o' some mat nursing a jackass at front o' Tobe's yed yon, off without to 'em. Tha favours one at same breed." Enoch made no further parley, but ran down the road towards his comrades. As soon as he came within hail, he shouted at the top of his voice, "Hey, lads!" "Now then, is that the Enoch? It's nought else. Where's jackass?" "It's here," answered Rip. "How did to get off, owd lad?" "Off? Yon dog's ta'en a great mouthful out the calf of my leg." "And what said owd Sally?" "Why, who reckons who'll have us up?" "By mon," said Twitchell, "I wish I had naught to do with this job. If our maister gets to hear on it, he'll sack us all. And see thou what a seat I am." "Aye," said Enoch. "Where hast ta been?" "Been? I ran up to middle in a single out at gate o' that dog." "Well, thou'rt a bonny bagel, owd mon," said Enoch, laughing. "Bagel," replied Twitchell. "Feel at me. I might have been in a treacle tub." "And how did jackass go on?" continued Enoch. "The jackass," replied Twitchell. "Why, it needed no driving, I can tell thou, with that dog behind it. It took slap through a potato field, and out to back of Johnny Barlam's pig coats, with dogs snapping at it every stride. Off it went down Cowle Lane like a wild unicorn or summat with its tail up, and its heels darting out like lightning. I made room for 'em as they went by, they may be sure. Just at turn at lane, it met owd Mal o' Flazer's, with a pitcher full o' churn milk in her hands. Down who went, milk and all. Who shrieked out murder, and jackass sprang straight up top on her, just same as if who'd been a brook or a fire hole or summat. And then it catched the dog a well-tunt jowl with its heel, and sent it yowling home again, with part of its jawbone skifted, or else I'm chetted. I were wiping myself with some hay, when the dog come back. But I crept behind the stack till I get 'em by, and then I come for'ard whistling as sly as a mouse. When I get to Turnip Lane, folk began asking if that were my jackass, but I'd had no one. I reckoned to be as gormless as a tup. I began a thinking it had jumped through a window or some lumber. How did that go on, Rip?" "Go on," replied Rip. "The nose had that bit of beef o' Ben's in me hand, as I'd ta'en out at Pannier. As soon as I seed dog get hold of Enoch's leg, I lets the beef fall into a gutter, and I looked straight up th' edge. Look how I riven me breeches among thorns, and I'll be bummed me skin's ruled like a copybook just now. Well, as soon as I get up th' edge, I lay me down flat on me face in th' field, till things get settled a bit. And when I come to pipe myself up, say thou at my breast, talk about mustard pleisters." "Slutch bit, mon," said Enoch, feeling at it. "Slutch? Aye, cow slutch," replied Rip. "Aye, it is, biggo," said Enoch, examining it more carefully. "Well, come," cried Rip cheerfully, "never mind, it'll wash off. I'm fain we an getting the jackass. But what mun we do with it, lads? What the devil mun we do with it?" "Pop it, I tell you," cried Enoch. "Pop it, sister," answered Twitchell. "There's no pop shops about here, and if one were to drive it to Ratstown, it's 10 to 1 if any pawnbrokers would tack it in. Here, Enoch, look after it thyself. I'm no bound to ston here so much longer. We's be ta'en up o' some lumber." "Come, they're not gonna run soft again, arter," said Enoch. "Soft or hard," replied Twitchell, "I'm no bound to be ta'en up for jackass stealing, I tell you. So if any on you knows a pop shop where they taken jackasses in, get a gate a truck in, and else I'm off at the noot like a red shank." Try it, landlord, here, I tell you, cried Enoch. He's a decent chap, is Jem. Let's give him first chance. Well, go thee in and ask him then, as that's so clever, replied Twitchell. He stands in bar yon. Come, I'll go, said Enoch, and he ran up the steps and shouted in at the doorway. Hey, Jem, that wanted a minute. Come in, replied Jem, setting down a pitcher which he was filling at the bar. When he got to the front, he set one hand against the door cheek and looked out into the starlit road. Well, what's wanted? Said he. Come here, replied Enoch, beckoning him to the causeway side, where they stood with the donkey. Sit thou, Jem, continued Enoch. Come to lend us £half-a-crown upon this jackass? A jackass? Cried Jem. What the devil will you bring next? Where han you let on this? We han fund it prowling about Clough yon, replied Enoch, and we han had bun £half-a-crown's of bother with it. It caps me how it get yon. It belongs somebody that's either drunken or drowned. But as who it is, they be fain to pay for it when they turns up. Thou be sure of thy brass back, or else thou can stick to jackass the nose. It's a nice little thing of somebody's. Aye, it is, said Rip, pretending to examine Dimple's points. It's a pratty legged un, very. Feel here, Jem. There's a bit of breed about that jackass, or else I'm chetted. Well, replied Jem, eyeing the rogues with doubtful glance, and then groping at the donkey's legs, as if he was beginning to be satisfied in his mind about the matter. Well, I guess as be like to do it. Here, and he handed the money to Twitchell. It's worth £half-a-crown as how 'tis, continued Jem. I'll put it in stable a day or two, and if nobody owns it, it'll come in for childer. Here, Rip, tack it in, and give it a bit of summat to eat. They may leave those things in panniers. I'll say to 'em afore I go to bed. That's right, said Twitchell, pocketing the £half-crown, as Rip and Dimple went round to the stable. We ain't getting into good hands at last. Come out, Brid, continued he, turning to Enoch. We mun go in, I guess. Aye, replied Enoch, in without. And away they went into the alehouse, at the heels of the landlord.